Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, staring at the massive view screen that showed the dark void of space. 3 months had passed since the alien ships first appeared at the edge of their solar system. 3 months since everything changed for humanity. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the occasional beep from control panels. Morrison's crew worked at their stations, their faces serious and focused. Everyone knew what was coming. The aliens had given them 30 days to surrender. That deadline had passed long ago. Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant looked up from her tactical station. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and dark circles under. Her eyes showed she had not slept much lately. "Admiral, we have new readings from the outer sensors. The alien fleet is moving past Neptune's orbit." Morrison nodded slowly. He was a tall man in his 50s with gray hair and weathered hands from years of military service. Before the aliens came, he had been planning his retirement. Now he commanded humanity's last hope. "How many ships, Lisa?" 12 massive vessels, sir. Each one is about the size of Manhattan. Our computers estimate they could house millions of soldiers. Lisa's voice stayed steady, but Morrison could hear the fear she was trying to hide. "The aliens called themselves the Kethran Empire. When they first made contact, they sent a simple message to every radio, television, and computer on Earth. The message was clear and cold. They had conquered over 300 worlds across the galaxy. They were masters of space warfare. They demanded Earth's complete surrender within 30 days. Morrison remembered watching that first broadcast with the rest of the world. The alien who spoke looked somewhat human but with pale blue skin and large black eyes. It wore a uniform covered in strange symbols and spoke in perfect English, somehow knowing their language already. "People of Earth," the alien had said, "I am War Commander Thextar of the Kethran Empire. Your world has been chosen for integration into our domain. You have 30 of your days to surrender all military forces and prepare for occupation. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species." The world leaders had their answer ready in less than 6 hours. President Martinez spoke for all of Earth when she broadcast humanity's response back into space. "We reject your demands. Earth will never surrender. If you want our world, you will have to take it by force." Morrison smiled slightly, remembering the pride he felt that day. Humans might be outgunned and outmatched, but they would not go quietly into slavery. Captain Ben Hughes entered the bridge, still wearing his flight suit from his latest scouting mission. His ship, the UES Vanguard, was one of the fastest vessels in the human fleet. Ben was young, maybe 30 years old, with brown hair and quick green eyes that missed nothing. "Admiral, I just returned from observing the alien fleet," Ben reported, saluting quickly. "They are moving in a straight line formation, not even trying to hide their approach. It's like they think we cannot hurt them." Morrison turned to face the captain. "What else did you see?" Ben pulled out a tablet and showed Morrison the images he had captured. The alien ships were massive and dark, shaped like long triangles with curved edges. Strange lights pulsed along their hulls in patterns that hurt to look at for too long. "Sir, they move slowly and predictably. Their ships stay in the same formation, and they broadcast on open channels without any encryption. It's like they have never fought an enemy that could challenge them." Ben's voice carried a hint of hope. Morrison studied the images. The ships were impressive and frightening, but Ben was right. The aliens acted like they had already won. They showed no caution, no respect for human capabilities. Perhaps that would be their mistake. "Lisa, what do we know about their weapons?" Morrison asked. Lisa brought up new data on her screen. Based on energy readings from their ships, they use some kind of plasma-based weapon system. They also have powerful energy shields that can probably stop most conventional attacks. "Our scientists think they rely completely on energy-based technology." Morrison rubbed his chin, thinking. Humanity had been preparing for this fight since the first alien message. Every factory on Earth now produced weapons and ships instead of cars and computers. Every person with military training had been called to service. It still might not be enough, but they would try. Dr. Alex Carter's voice came through the communication system from the research lab deep inside the ship. Admiral, we have finished the first batch of kinetic weapons. These railguns fire solid metal projectiles at incredible speeds. The aliens might not expect physical projectiles since they seem to focus on energy weapons. Morrison felt a small spark of hope. How many do we have ready? 50 railgun platforms are installed on ships throughout the fleet. We also have the nuclear mines deployed in the asteroid belt, and the drone swarms are in position. It's not much compared to their firepower, but it might surprise them. The bridge crew listened to every word. They all knew the odds were against them. The Kethran Empire had destroyed hundreds of worlds with advanced civilizations. Earth was just another conquest to them, a minor stop on their path through the galaxy. But Morrison had studied human history. He knew that sometimes the smaller force could win through courage, creativity, and sheer determination. David had defeated Goliath with a simple stone. Perhaps humanity could find their own stone to throw at these galactic giants. Commander, Torres, what about the Cyber Warfare Division? Morrison asked. Nina Torres answered from her station near the back of the bridge. She was a small woman with black hair and intense dark eyes who had once been a computer programmer before joining the military. Sir, we have been analyzing the alien communication signals. Their technology is advanced, but seems to follow predictable patterns. We might be able to interfere with their systems if we can get close enough. Morrison looked around at his crew, these brave men and women who had volunteered to stand between Earth and destruction. They were scared, he could see it in their faces, but they were ready to fight. That was what made humans special. They fought even when they knew they might lose. All right, people, Morrison said, his voice carrying to every corner of the bridge. The aliens think we will be easy to defeat. They believe we are primitive and weak. Let's show them what happens when you underestimate the human race. Dr. Alex Carter wiped sweat from his forehead as he worked in the underground weapons laboratory beneath Colorado. The facility had been built in just 2 months, carved deep into the mountain to protect it from alien detection. Around him, hundreds of engineers and scientists worked around the clock to create weapons that could fight an enemy from the stars. Kate Williams stood beside Alex, holding a tablet that showed the latest test results. She was a young engineer with red hair and freckles, who had designed spacecraft engines before the invasion. Now she built weapons of war. Alex, the railgun test was successful. We can fire a tungsten rod at 30,000 miles per hour. That's fast enough to punch through most known materials. Alex nodded, but his face showed worry. Kate, we need thousands of these weapons, not dozens. The alien ships are massive. We need something that can hurt them badly. He looked at the prototype railgun, a device the size of a small car that could fire metal projectiles faster than anything humans had built before. In another part of the facility, Colonel Ryan Davis supervised the final preparations of humanity's secret weapons project. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter was now filled with thousands of small drones, each one no bigger than a refrigerator. These machines had been disguised to look like space rocks, waiting silently for the alien fleet to come within range. Sir, the last batch of drones is in position, reported Sergeant Maria Lopez, a computer specialist who controlled the drone network. Each drone carries enough explosives to damage a small building. They can move fast and work together like a swarm of angry bees. Ryan smiled for the first time in weeks. The drones were his idea, based on how Earth insects could overwhelm much larger enemies through teamwork. Maria, make sure they stay hidden until we give the signal. The aliens must not know what's waiting for them. The drone swarms were different from anything used in galactic warfare. Most space battles involved large ships firing energy weapons at each other from great distances. Humans had decided to try something new. If they could not match alien firepower, they would use speed and numbers instead. Commander Nina Torres worked in a different kind of laboratory, one filled with computers and communication equipment. She had been a hacker before the war, someone who broke into computer systems for the government. Now she used those skills to find weaknesses in alien technology. The Kethran ships talk to each other using quantum signals, Nina explained to her team of programmers. These signals are very advanced, but they follow patterns we can learn. If we can break into their communication system, we might be able to cause confusion during battle. Her assistant, Lieutenant Bob Fisher, looked up from his computer screen. Bob had been a video game programmer before joining the military. Nina, I found something interesting. The alien ships seem to use automated systems for many functions. If we can hack into those systems, we might be able to turn their own weapons against them. Nina felt excitement building. This could be the advantage humanity needed. Bob, start working on a virus program, something that can spread through their network and cause their computers to malfunction. We only need it to work for a few minutes, during the fight. Meanwhile, in Earth's orbital shipyards, thousands of workers converted civilian spacecraft into weapons of war. Mining ships became missile platforms. Cargo vessels were fitted with armor and guns. Even passenger shuttles were turned into fast attack craft that could carry nuclear bombs. Captain Sam Rodriguez stood in the docking bay of the converted mining vessel Red Mountain. The ship had once pulled valuable metals from asteroids. Now it carried enough firepower to level a small city. Sam was a former asteroid miner himself, a tough man with scarred hands who knew how to work in the dangerous environment of space. These mining ships are built to survive asteroid impacts and solar radiation, Sam told his crew. They're tougher than they look. The aliens won't expect converted civilian ships to fight back so hard. His chief engineer, Linda Park, nodded as she checked the weapon systems. Linda had worked on mining equipment for 15 years before the war. She understood how to make industrial machinery into tools of destruction. Sam, we installed 20 missile launchers where the mining equipment used to be. This old ship can now fire enough missiles to overwhelm most defensive systems. The conversion program had turned Earth's commercial fleet into a military force. It was not elegant or pretty, but it was effective. The aliens expected to fight military vessels designed for war. Instead, they would face garbage haulers and mining ships that refused to surrender. Dr. Rachel Kim worked in her laboratory on Mars developing new types of explosives. Mars had become humanity's forward base, the place where they would make their stand against the alien fleet. Rachel was a chemist who had studied how to mine Mars for useful materials. Now she created bombs. The aliens use energy shields to protect their ships, Rachel explained to her research team. These shields are designed to stop energy weapons like lasers and plasma guns, but they might not work as well against physical explosions, especially nuclear ones. Her colleague, Dr. Pete Wilson, showed her the latest bomb design. Pete had worked on nuclear power plants before the war and understood atomic energy better than almost anyone. Rachel, these nuclear mines can be hidden in space debris. When an alien ship comes close, the mine explodes with the force of a small sun. Even their shields might not stop that much raw power. Back on Earth, Admiral Morrison received reports from all the different weapon projects. The news was both good and bad. Humanity had created many new weapons in a short time, but they still faced an enemy with vastly superior technology and numbers. Sir, the weapon systems are ready, reported Lieutenant Commander Lisa Grant. We have railguns, nuclear mines, drone swarms, cyber warfare tools, and converted civilian ships. It's not enough to match the alien fleet in a direct fight, but it might be enough to surprise them. Morrison studied the battle plans on his screen. The strategy was risky and desperate, but it was their only chance. Instead of fighting the aliens the way they expected, humanity would use chaos, unpredictability, and overwhelming force in small bursts. Lisa, send word to all units. We fight in 2 days when the alien fleet reaches Jupiter. Everyone knows their job. We only get one chance to show these invaders that Earth will not fall easily. The preparations were complete. Humanity had turned their entire civilization into a weapon pointed at the stars. Now they would discover if human creativity and determination could overcome alien superiority. The battle for Earth's survival was about to begin. The Kethrin fleet moved through Jupiter's orbit like a parade of dark metal giants. War Commander Thextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the gas giant swirling storms through the massive viewing window. His pale blue skin showed no emotion as he studied the tactical displays around him. Commander, we detect no significant military presence in this system, reported his tactical officer. The humans appear to have concentrated their primitive forces closer to their homeworld. We should reach their planet within 10 standard cycles. Thextar nodded slowly. In 300 conquests, the pattern was always the same. The native species would gather their forces around their homeworld for a final desperate battle. They would use their most advanced weapons and fight with courage, but it never mattered. The Kethran Empire had perfected the art of conquest long ago. Maintain current speed and formation, Thextar ordered. Begin charging the plasma cannons. We will destroy any resistance we encounter and proceed to the human world for final surrender negotiations. What the Kethran commander did not know was that Captain Sam Rodriguez and his squadron of converted mining ships had been waiting in the asteroid belt for this moment. Sam watched the alien fleet approach on his tactical screen, his hands steady on the controls of the Red Mountain. All ships, this is Sam, he broadcast to his squadron on a tight beam radio signal. The targets are entering our weapons range. Remember, these mining ships were built to crack asteroids. Let's see how they work on alien armor. Sam's squadron consisted of 12 converted mining vessels, each one loaded with missiles and kinetic weapons. The ships looked like flying scrap, metal compared to the sleek alien vessels, but they were tough and heavily armed. More importantly, the aliens had no idea they were there. Red Mountain to all units, Sam continued. Fire everything on my mark. We only get one surprise attack, so make it count. The mining ships had been hiding among the real asteroids, their engines cold and their hulls disguised to look like space rocks. Now they came to life, their missile launchers opening and their targeting computers locking onto the alien fleet. Fire! Sam shouted. 12 mining ships unleashed everything they had at once. Hundreds of missiles streaked through space toward the Kethran fleet, followed by streams of tungsten rods fired from railguns. The attack came from multiple directions, making it impossible for the aliens to defend against all the incoming weapons. On the Kethran flagship, alarms began screaming. The tactical officer stared at his displays in confusion. Commander, we are under attack. Multiple projectile weapons incoming from the asteroid field. Thextar felt surprise for the first time in decades. Impossible. Our sensors showed no ships in that area. The Kethran energy shields activated automatically, creating glowing barriers around each ship. The shields were designed to stop plasma weapons and energy beams, and they worked perfectly against those types of attacks. But the human weapons were different. The first wave of missiles struck the shields and exploded in brilliant flashes of light. The shields held, but they flickered and weakened under the barrage. Then the railgun projectiles arrived, traveling at incredible speeds. The tungsten rods punched through the weakened shields like bullets through paper, tearing into the alien hull armor. Damage report, Thextar demanded as his ship shook from multiple impacts. Shield generators are overloading on ships 3, 7, and 11, the tactical officer reported. Hull breaches on the outer sections. These weapons are using kinetic energy, not plasma. Our shields are not optimized for this type of attack. Sam watched with satisfaction as his attack damaged 3 alien ships. It was not enough to destroy them, but it proved that the mighty Kethran fleet could be hurt. All ships, prepare for second attack run. Load the nuclear warheads. But the aliens were already responding. Plasma cannons on the Kethran ships began firing back at the mining vessels. The energy beams were devastatingly powerful, designed to destroy military spacecraft with single hits. The mining ship Steel Hammer took a direct hit and exploded in a ball of fire. Captain Lucy Chen and her crew of 15 died instantly, but their sacrifice had meaning. The aliens now knew that humans would fight back with weapons they had never encountered before. This is Red Mountain to all Earth forces, Sam broadcast on the main communication channel. First attack successful. Enemy shields are vulnerable to kinetic weapons. Repeat, kinetic weapons are effective against alien shields. Admiral Morrison received the message on the bridge of the USS Defiance, orbiting Mars with the main human fleet. The Admiral felt a mix of sadness for the lost crew and hope for the information they had provided. Lisa, relay Sam's tactical data to all ships, Morrison ordered. Focus our attacks on kinetic weapons and nuclear explosives. Their energy shields can be overwhelmed. Meanwhile, Commander Nina Torres was already putting her cyber warfare plan into action. Her team had been monitoring Kethrin communications since the battle began, and now they launched their computer virus into the alien network. The virus is spreading through their quantum communication system, reported Lieutenant Bob Fisher. It's designed to cause random malfunctions in their automated systems. Nina watched her computer screens as the virus worked its way through the alien fleet's network. The program was simple but effective, causing small errors in navigation computers and weapon targeting systems. The aliens would not notice the problems immediately, but the malfunctions would grow worse over time. Thextar studied the battle, reports with growing concern. The human attack had been crude but effective. More troubling was the fact that his fleet's computers were beginning to show minor errors. Navigation systems gave slightly wrong readings. Weapon targeting was less accurate than normal. Run full diagnostics on all systems, Thextar ordered. Something is interfering with our computers. But there was no time for lengthy system checks. Long-range sensors detected more human ships approaching from the direction of Mars. These vessels were larger and appeared to be proper military spacecraft, not converted civilian ships. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Peterson commanded the Mars Defense Squadron from her flagship, the UES Guardian. Her 12 ships were humanity's newest and most advanced vessels, built specifically for this war. Unlike the converted mining ships, these were designed from the beginning to fight in space. All ships, this is Amy, she broadcast to her squadron. The mining crews have done their job and shown us how to hurt these invaders. Now it's our turn to show them what human military engineering can do. Amy's ships carried the most advanced weapons humanity had developed. Nuclear-tipped missiles, rail guns that could fire continuously, and experimental laser systems that had been rushed into production. Each ship also carried a full squadron of the small combat drones that would swarm the alien vessels. The Kethrin fleet reformed its battle line to face this new threat. Thextar was no longer confident in easy victory. The humans were proving more resourceful and dangerous than any species he had encountered. Their weapons were primitive but effective, and they seemed willing to sacrifice themselves for tactical advantage. All ships prepare for full combat, Thextar ordered. These humans appear to have some fight in them after all. The real battle was about to begin. The space around Mars had become a battlefield, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Morrison watched from the bridge of the USS Defiance as the Kethrin fleet approached in their standard formation, 12 massive ships that blocked out the stars behind them. The aliens still moved with confidence, but Morrison could see damage on their hulls from the earlier attacks. All human forces, this is Admiral Morrison, he broadcast to every ship in the defense fleet. Today we fight for our world, our families, and our future. The aliens think we are weak because we are different. Let's show them that different can be deadly. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Peterson brought her Mars Defense Squadron into position near the red planet's largest moon. Her ships formed a loose circle rather than the tight formations preferred by most military forces. Human tactics emphasized flexibility and unpredictability over neat battle lines. Amy, to all squadron leaders, she transmitted, remember the plan. We hit them fast, hit them hard, and keep moving. Don't try to match their firepower, use speed and confusion instead. War Commander Thextar studied the human fleet with growing puzzlement. The enemy ships were scattered across a wide area with no clear formation. Some vessels hid behind Mars moons, while others drifted near the asteroid belt. It looked more like a merchant convoy than a military force. Commander, the human deployment makes no tactical sense, reported his tactical officer. They have divided their forces and left gaps in their defensive line. We can break through easily and destroy them in small groups. Thextar nodded, but something felt wrong. In 300 conquests, he had learned to trust his instincts. The humans had already surprised him once with their kinetic weapons and computer viruses. What other tricks did they have planned? Advance the fleet but maintain defensive formations, Thextar ordered. Charge all weapons and prepare for full combat. I suspect these humans have more surprises waiting for us. The first surprise came from Commander Danny Walsh and his squadron of old cargo ships. Danny was a former freight pilot who had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in human history. His ships looked like harmless transport vessels, but each one carried something. That would have terrified the aliens if they had known about it. "This is Danny Walsh to all volunteer crews," he broadcast on a secure channel. "Final systems check on the special cargo. We only get one chance to make this work." Danny's cargo ships carried the largest nuclear weapons humanity had ever built, each bomb powerful enough to destroy a small city. The plan was simple and desperate. The cargo ships would use Mars's gravity to accelerate toward the alien fleet, then explode their nuclear payloads at close range. It was a suicide mission, and every pilot had volunteered knowing they would not survive. But if it worked, the nuclear explosions would overwhelm the alien energy shields and damage their massive ships. "All cargo ships, begin gravity slingshot maneuver," Danny ordered. "Set course for the center of the alien formation. Time to show these invaders what happens when you threaten Earth." The Catherine sensors detected the approaching cargo ships, but the alien computers classified them as non-threatening civilian vessels. The ships were old, slow, and carried no visible weapons. Thextar's tactical officer barely glanced at them. "Commander, several human cargo ships are approaching our position," the officer reported. "Should we destroy them?" Thextar was focused on the military vessels that posed a real threat. "Ignore the cargo ships. They are probably trying to evacuate civilians. Concentrate all fire on their warships." It was exactly the mistake Danny Walsh had hoped for. The cargo ships completed their gravity slingshot around Mars and accelerated directly toward the alien fleet. By the time the Catherines realized the danger, it was too late to stop them. "For Earth!" Danny shouted over the radio as his ship reached the center of the alien formation. He pressed the detonation button, and 12 cargo ships exploded simultaneously, in a series of nuclear fireballs that lit up the space around Mars like tiny suns. The explosions were devastating. The alien energy shields designed to stop plasma weapons could not handle the raw power of multiple nuclear detonations at close range. 3 Catherine ships lost their shields completely, while others suffered severe damage to their hull armor and weapon systems. On the flagship, Thextar struggled to understand what had happened. The tactical displays showed massive energy signatures, where the cargo ships had been. His own ship shook from the blast waves, and damage reports flooded in from across the fleet. "Impossible," Thextar whispered. "They destroyed their own ships to damage ours. What kind of species fights this way?" Admiral Morrison watched the nuclear explosions with mixed emotions. 12 brave crews had given their lives, but their sacrifice had worked. The alien fleet was wounded and confused, exactly as planned. "All ships attack now while their shields are down," Morrison broadcast. "This is our chance." The human fleet struck from all directions at once. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Peterson led her squadron in a high-speed attack run, firing railguns and missiles at the damaged alien ships. The tungsten projectiles punched through weakened armor, while nuclear-tipped missiles exploded against hull sections that no longer had shield protection. Commander Nina Torres activated the second phase of her cyber attack. While the aliens dealt with physical damage, her computer virus spread deeper into their systems. Navigation computers began giving wrong coordinates. Weapon targeting systems locked onto empty space instead of human ships. "The virus is causing system-wide failures," reported Lieutenant Bob Fisher. "Their automated defenses are firing at nothing while their ships drift off course." The battle became a nightmare for the Catherine fleet. They were fighting an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. Instead of energy weapons and shield technology, the humans used explosives, projectiles, and suicide attacks. Their ships moved unpredictably, struck from unexpected angles, and seemed willing to destroy themselves for tactical advantage. Dr. Rachel Kim watched the battle from the Mars Research Station, recording everything for history. Her instruments detected something that filled her with amazement and hope. "This is Dr. Kim to Admiral Morrison," she transmitted. "The alien fleet is breaking apart. 4 ships are drifting without power, and the others are trying to retreat. We're actually winning." Thextar stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. Half his fleet was damaged or destroyed, and the humans continued their relentless attacks. His remaining ships were scattered and confused, their computer systems corrupted by the human virus. "All ships fall back to defensive positions," Thextar ordered. "We need time to assess the situation and repair our systems." But the humans gave him no time. Wave after wave of small attack craft swarmed the alien ships like angry insects. Each craft carried nuclear warheads or kinetic weapons that exploited the weakness in Kethran defenses. The aliens had never faced an enemy that fought with such chaotic determination. By the time the battle ended, the space around Mars was filled with the wreckage of both fleets, but the wreckage was mostly alien. Of the 12 massive Kethran ships that had entered the solar system, only 3 remained operational, and they were fleeing toward the outer planets. Admiral Morrison surveyed the battlefield with exhausted satisfaction. Humanity had paid a terrible price, losing hundreds of ships and thousands of brave souls, but they had achieved the impossible. They had defeated a galactic empire's finest fleet using nothing but human courage, creativity, and the willingness to fight dirty when survival was at stake. The red planet Mars now wore a new ring of glittering debris, the remains of an alien fleet that had underestimated the human spirit. 2 weeks after the battle, Captain Tony Baker guided his salvage ship through the debris field that now surrounded Mars. Pieces of alien spacecraft drifted in the vacuum like metallic snowflakes, each fragment a reminder of humanity's incredible victory. Tony had been a construction worker before the war, but now he led the teams recovering alien technology from the wreckage. Tony, to Salvage Team 7. He radioed to another ship. "I found a big piece over here. Looks like part of their main computer core. This might tell us how their technology works." The debris field was massive, stretching for thousands of miles around the red planet. 12 alien dreadnoughts had been reduced to scrap metal and floating junk. Some pieces were as large as buildings, while others were no bigger than coins. All of it represented the defeat of an empire that had conquered 300 worlds. Commander Helen Ross worked in the temporary research facility on Mars, studying the alien technology that salvage teams brought to her each day. Helen was a computer engineer who had helped design Earth's defense networks. Now she tried to understand how the Kethran Empire had built their incredible machines. "The alien computer systems are amazing," Helen explained to her research team. "They can process information thousands of times faster than our best computers. Their energy weapons are more powerful than anything we imagined possible. But they have one huge weakness." Dr. Pete Wilson looked up from the alien device he was examining. Pete had been studying the wreckage for days, trying to understand how the Kethran ships worked. "What kind of weakness?" Helen pulled up data on her computer screen. "They designed everything around energy-based technology. Energy shields, energy weapons, energy communication systems. Their whole civilization developed along one technological path. They never learned to defend against physical attacks like explosions and projectiles." The discovery was remarkable. The Kethran Empire had become incredibly advanced but also incredibly specialized. They were like a person who had become an expert at one skill but never learned anything else. When they met an enemy who fought differently, they could not adapt. Admiral Morrison visited the research facility to review the findings. The admiral looked older than his years, worn down by the stress of commanding humanity's defense. But his eyes showed satisfaction as he studied the alien technology. "Helen, what does this tell us about the other worlds they conquered?" Morrison asked. Helen brought up a star map on the large display screen. Red dots showed the locations of worlds controlled by the Kethran Empire, hundreds of planets across the galaxy. "Sir, based on the data we recovered, every species they conquered used similar technology: energy shields, plasma weapons, predictable military tactics. The Kethrans developed a standard conquest method that worked against every enemy they met." Morrison studied the map with growing understanding. "Until they met us." "Exactly," Helen replied. "We're the first species they encountered that fights with kinetic weapons, nuclear explosives, and suicide tactics. Their military doctrine had no answer for our methods." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Emma Scott monitored deep space communications from the listening post on Earth's moon. Emma was a communications specialist who spoke 7 languages and had been trained to decode alien signals. What she heard in the days after the battle filled her with amazement. "Admiral Morrison, you need to hear this," Emma transmitted to the research facility on Mars. I'm picking up communications from across the Kethran Empire. The news of their defeat here is spreading to every world they control. Emma played the intercepted alien transmissions through the communication system. Even though the language was strange, the tone was clear. Fear, confusion, and disbelief filled the voices of Kethran commanders across the galaxy. They're calling it impossible, Emma translated. A primitive species destroyed their finest fleet. Some of their commanders are demanding reinforcements, but others are questioning whether the Empire can be defeated by subject worlds using similar tactics. The implications were staggering. The Kethran Empire had maintained control over hundreds of worlds through fear and the belief that their military was invincible. Now that belief was shattered. If humans could defeat the Empire's fleet, maybe other enslaved species could fight back too. Dr. Rachel Kim continued monitoring communications from her station on Mars. Rachel had watched the entire battle and recorded every moment for history. Now she listened as the galaxy began to change because of humanity's victory. I'm detecting increased military activity on 17 different worlds, Rachel reported. Species that have been enslaved for decades are beginning to rebel against Kethran occupation forces. Our victory is inspiring a galactic uprising. The 3 surviving Kethran ships had fled toward the edge of the solar system, but they moved, slowly and carefully. Their crews were demoralized and their ships were damaged. War Commander Thextar sent a final message to Earth before his fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. People of Earth, the alien commander said, his voice tired and defeated. You have achieved something we thought impossible. In 300 conquests, no species has ever destroyed a Kethran battle fleet. We underestimated your creativity and your willingness to sacrifice for victory. Thextar paused, and when he spoke again, his voice carried a grudging respect. The Empire will remember this defeat. Your tactics and weapons will be studied and feared throughout the galaxy. You have proven that different does not mean inferior. The transmission ended, and the surviving alien ships disappeared into the darkness between stars. They carried with them the news that would shake the foundations of a galactic empire. Admiral Morrison addressed the United Earth Council 6 months after the battle. Representatives from every nation gathered to hear his report on humanity's first interstellar war. The Admiral stood before the assembly, his uniform showing the new medals created to honor the heroes of Mars. The Kethran Empire based their entire military strategy on the assumption that all intelligent species develop similar technology, Morrison explained. They expected us to fight with energy weapons and defensive shields, just like every other species they had conquered. Instead, we used kinetic weapons, nuclear explosives, and tactics they had never seen before. Morrison gestured to a display showing human weapons and ships. Our railguns, nuclear mines, and converted civilian vessels were primitive compared to their technology. But they were effective because they were unexpected. The aliens had never developed defenses against pure kinetic energy and massive explosions. The council members listened intently as Morrison continued. More importantly, we fought with a level of determination and sacrifice that they could not understand. Our willingness to destroy our own ships to damage theirs, our use of civilian vessels as weapons, our complete disregard for conventional military doctrine, these things were outside their experience. President Martinez stood to address the assembly. Admiral Morrison, what does this mean for Earth's future? Will the Kethran Empire return with better weapons and new tactics? Morrison considered the question carefully. The 3 ships that escaped will report our capabilities to their leaders. The Empire will likely develop new defenses against kinetic weapons and study our tactics. But they face a bigger problem now. Morrison brought up the galactic map showing the spreading rebellions. Our victory has inspired uprisings on dozens of worlds. The Empire's reputation for invincibility is broken. They're fighting wars on multiple fronts against species that are copying our tactics and weapons. The Kethran Empire may survive, but they will never again be the unopposed masters of the galaxy. Years later, children on Earth would look up at Mars on clear nights and see the planet surrounded by a faint ring of light. The debris from the alien fleet caught and reflected sunlight, creating a beautiful memorial to humanity's greatest victory. Parents would tell their children the story of how humans faced impossible odds and won through courage, creativity, and the refusal to give up. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not just another species to be conquered. Humans were something new and dangerous, a race that fought with chaos instead of order, sacrifice instead of preservation, and determination instead of logic. The Kethran Empire had come to conquer Earth, but they never made it past Mars. They had underestimated the human spirit, and that mistake would echo across the stars for generations to come. Humanity had taken its first step toward becoming a galactic power, not through superior technology, but through the simple refusal to surrender when faced with impossible odds.